I forgot I had the mics muted for a second. I did that. I think I do that like every episode of this now too. It's just like a tradition at this point.
And people are like, muted.
Yeah, the whole chat is just like muted,
Fix it.
muted, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Of course, all you early birds out there, we're just here for a little bit of a pre-show as usual to make sure the audio and video is working all right. So let us know how the audio sounds. I know Tiny's video is a little sketch right now, but that's hashtag Discord issues. It's not our fault, I promise. It was fine just a moment ago, and it'll probably wind up being fine in like a few minutes. But in the event that it doesn't get better, I apologize. Where's the sound? You guys should have sound. Don't troll me like this.
This chair is massive, actually. I think this is where your shoulders are supposed to go, like right
It's funny
here.
because you and I mean, we have like different brands, but like, let's be honest, they're kind of like the same chair. Mine's just a macronomic and you have a DX Racer, but like, I
Your
dwarf this
head is
chair.
like.
Yeah, oh, I noticed that when you first joined the call, and I was like, Jesus.
Maybe we should swap chairs.
I don't
You're
know.
like.
Maybe. I don't. It's funny because like we've met in person and stuff, and it's always comical to like other people watching because you're. I was talking to Jay about this last night, and he was like, "Is she really small?" And I was like, "She's really small." Like, I don't think you understand. It's always pretty
Yes,
funny
I'm
in
saying
person at
tiny.
meetups and stuff.
Yeah, I'm so sad we won't have any in for a while, for the time
Yeah,
being.
yeah. How you feeling about that, anyways? Is that making you as sad as it's making me?
It's pretty sad, but I mean that's like I mean yeah, one of the cool parts of meetups is just being able to meet your friends in person and people from the community, and not being able to do that does super suck, but it is necessary for the world to survive, for
Yeah.
humanity to survive. So, you know, I think I mean we'll always have more, and there will always be many that happen. So yeah.
Yeah, I saw earlier that KeyCon got moved to September, I think it was. So, I mean, people trying to work around the pandemic guidelines and stuff, I guess.
Yeah. But even so, I don't know how long things will go on for, because, you know, it's not really until we have a vaccine for it or something, like it's still a danger to everybody, like
Yeah,
in big social gatherings. So yeah.
absolutely. Apiary, welcome. Thanks for the sub. She says, "Oh my God, it's my favorite J." Yeah, Tiny's the new J. You heard it here first, folks. If there was ever one person to replace Jay, we've always known all along it was going to be Tiny.
Janie, that's my new name.
Fantastic. Someone says upgrade. I don't know, man. You guys don't appreciate the British accent, apparently. Or maybe Tiny has a better British accent. Who knows?
Oh, my British accent is pretty
There you
rubbish.
go. No, that's like perfect. That's actually what Jay
Rubbish.
sounds like. Yeah.
Just rubbish. Cheerio. Top of. Oh, wait, no, that's the wrong.
That is more than good enough for me and probably most of the viewers here. So it's good. Hattie Potter says, "No, we love Jay." I know. I love Jay too. Jay's a good guy. I just like to make fun of him. Jay Shove, thank you so much for the 500 J upgrade bits. Cheerio to you as well, Geo. Oh man, yeah, we'll get started here officially in just a moment, guys. We're just doing a casual pre-show as usual, waiting for people to roll in here before we get into the goods, the nitty gritty. Empty says, "Tiny, I bought a keycap from you last Fanime."
Oh,
What is Fanime?
it's an anime
Oh,
convention that
convention.
happens in San Jose, yeah. And it was supposed to happen actually, I think it was the end of May, and it got moved to next year. Like they just canceled this year's basically, or postponed it, I guess. They still kept it. They're saying like if you got accepted this year, we're like deferring it to 2021.
Sure.
So sad times, but makes sense.
Everything in 2020 is canceled. I agree, Empty. I agree.
Yeah.
This is a weird time in life, man. I don't think I'm kind
It
of
still
coming.
feels like unreal to me sometimes when I think about it. I'm like, is this really happening? Is this a dream? Like, are we seriously just
It's
everyone's just like,
honestly, it's kind of surreal, right? It feels like everything is like kind of a dream almost.
yeah, like
I don't know.
yeah, it
It's
just
fun.
feels different and like yeah, I don't know. It's a weird feeling.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Well, now I'm going to go ahead and roll an intro, and we're going to get right into this, guys. Now that everything seems to appear to be going just fine, except for the camera, but that's just something we have to deal with because Discord. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this week's episode of Top Clacks Behind the Keyboard. I'm your host, Quakums, and today I'm joined by, of course, a very special guest, Tiny, aka Tiny Makes Things, aka Tiny T, aka... How many names did you used to go by? I feel like your name changes a lot.
3 or something. Yeah, it's mostly tiny, just tiny on Twitch at least. Everything else is I think Tiny Makes Things, which is all completely like brand unified now, except for
Yeah.
Twitch.
It took you a while to score that Twitch username.
It did. It did. I just thought a lot about like the rebranding aspect because I was like, oh, I had this username for a long time and I branded things around that a little bit, like the 3 E's or whatever annoying spelling I had. And then I thought about having to change that and it just like I was like, so that's a lot of work. And then finally after changing, I was like, it's so much easier. And a lot of people were like, how did you get that name? And it's because I got special partner privileges and they gave it to me.
Yeah, once you get the partner privileges, you get a lot more room to work with.
Yeah.
So a lot of people know you as a content creator, an artisan maker, a prolific social media star, if you will, in one way or another. But let's talk a little bit about how you got into the community. Everyone kind of has their own little origin story. If you're like me, maybe it's really boring, but perhaps yours is really interesting. So what got you into the keyboard hobby overall?
It's not that interesting, but it's kind of, I think it's more embarrassing than it is interesting
Oh
because
yes, very nice.
I oh yes sir. I had actually built my PC, and when I built my PC and I bought the keyboard component, I actually remember looking up like mechanical keyboards because I knew they were a thing, and I was like, why would I buy? I think it was $100. I feel like it was pretty the low end of mechanical keyboards back then. That was like maybe I don't even remember, more than 5 years ago. And so I was like, I mean, I could spend $15 on this like random Dell, I don't know, keyboard, or I can spend $100 and I'm trying to go budget here. So I spent, $15. And then I remember, uh, I had a crush on this guy and he was into keyboards. I don't even know how I knew. I think he posted about it or something. And I was like, oh, I'm going to use that as an opportunity to talk to him. So I kind of like used like my lack of knowledge about mechanical keyboards and I don't know if I mean maybe it was feigned interest to be like, hey, like, can you tell me about? I'm thinking about getting a mechanical keyboard. Like, that's and then I kind of like worked my way into, you know, just talking to him through that. And little did I know that I actually had opened up this world of actual like interest and now I'm like yeah now and it was kind of just downhill after there. Like I just really got into it and dove deep into artisans and now it's like very very much what I related to what I do for like a living and so yeah I thought it was gonna be just yeah I thought it was just a way it was an excuse to talk to somebody but I ended up being really interested in it like really kind of just looking at different options and being really amazed by all the things that I don't know mechanical keyboards are about so
Yeah, I would say that's one of the more interesting origin stories we've ever heard on Top Clack.
or most people just like yeah
It's
I just
it's rare to get into
rally
keyboards,
and
I
pay.
think, for like romantic reasons. I think that's a really interesting way to go about it. So obviously, you mentioned that this was 5+ years ago. You've been in the hobby for a lot longer than some people might realize. But how has the hobby kind of shifted since you've been in it up till now? Because being a veteran of 5+ years in the hobby, you were kind of there with the days before kind of Gateron became more popularized. Back when everyone was still using more of the Filcos and the Cherry MX switches, and we didn't have all these crazy things that go on right now.
Yeah.
So how do you kind of feel about that and that whole shift?
It has changed a lot since I started or since I've been in the community or in this hobby. Uh, I think one thing, I mean, there's a lot of like pros and cons of it, but one thing that has opened up for things is just it's gotten cheaper in some ways and gotten more expensive in other ways. Like the spectrum has like kind of just like the range of price has now increased. Like you can actually buy a keyboard, I think, a mechanical keyboard for something like $25 nowadays, I think. And then you can also buy one for like $1,000+ dollars. But the possibilities have grown. Like different switches have come out of just companies making more for people who want specific things about like specific feelings and sounds and stuff like that. I think it. I mean, obviously, there's been huge growth in the community, and I think that's allowed for a lot of innovation. There's like different ways, I guess, people make keyboards that weren't ways that people made keyboards back then. There's a lot more artisans and key sets that are around. Like back then, I think I just remember like GMK sets were run far and few between. Like not like I think there's like 10 sets. I always feel like there's multiple sets going on every single month. Back then it was like once every I don't even know like couple of months. There weren't nowhere near like as many as there are now, but I think that's great because I think it just allows for people to customize more and like better, I guess. Like there's more options. And I think back then you kind of are not pigeonholed, but you're forced to use certain things because you kind of have to, and that's the only option that you have. But now there's an array of like different colors of key sets, different types of materials that you can get for your keyboards. And the community has grown a lot in that aspect. And now I think a bigger part of it is more uh secular, is that the word for it? Normalized. It's a lot less like I feel like, oh, it's such a far away concept, and it's more like, oh, it's a normal, more of a normal hobby, I feel like. um and I don't know, I think the growth has been good for the community. I think it opens a lot of opportunities and doors for different things to happen, more possibilities. And yes, I think that was.
Fair enough. Absolutely fair enough. So, one thing I do kind of want to pick your brain on, because this is always something I'm kind of interested in. With the start of Top Clack, obviously, I had to kind of make a choice to kind of get out of artisans to go over to specialize more in the keyboard aspect of things because I couldn't really just afford it both. And I feel like a lot of people in our kind of position wind up making that kind of choice. And was that something you have had to do in your kind of keyboard career, is make the choice between keyboards and artisans, or have you tried to kind of overarch on both of them as you progress as a content creator?
um I don't think I've like had to make an actual choice, like a very distinct choice. I've always been kind of in the artisan thing, like the artisan side of things, I guess. And then I think I think the artisan side, in my opinion, grew a lot first, and then I think we started seeing a lot of stuff in the keyboard community. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about that, but if I felt like there was a lot more to learn as being more into the artisan stuff, and it was just like, oh, there's like a lot of technical stuff about, I would say, the more keyboard side of things, like different build materials and like travel actuation points and lubing and stabilizers and lots of like very specific
it's
things.
it's very geeky. It's very geeky and nerdy. And we kind of love that. Is the artisan
Yeah.
community ever like that though? Is it all about like what kind of resin or like these particular colors, this pressure pot or stuff like that?
I think parts of it can be, but a lot of it is very easily enjoyed when you're just like, it's art, like you can just like it because it looks cool to you, or like you just like how it looks. And it's like, well, for like keyboard stuff, if you like a certain thing, it's like, oh, it's because it has like slightly more like smoothness to it and it sounds less scratchy, like by a very small comparison, and you can't really tell if unless you're really like really paying attention kind of things. Like it feels very like specific for keyboard related things, and for artisans I don't feel like it. It's more like, oh yeah, if you like a maker, if you like, I don't know, if you just like a certain color and you just collect that color, like that's what people get into. There are very specific, I think, art. Like if you're in the creator, I think sphere, the maker, like artisan discourse, there's a lot of technical things that go on there where they talk about like different things and I don't know, temperature settings and like pot pressures and stuff like that. But that's not like the normal, like most people don't talk about that stuff unless you're actually a creator.
Oh,
But
okay.
I sorry, to answer your question, I don't think I made there was no decision, and I wish I could be a little bit more involved in the keyboard things, but at this point I'm just like, whatever I need to learn to like build a cute keyboard, I will learn. And then I kind of like I will, what do you call it? I just get information through like osmosis from like other people talking about it, and I don't do a lot of research myself. And I kind of just defer, like, oh yeah, just go ask that person. They know a lot about, switches or whatever. And I just kind of tend to stay more towards like normie side. It's an interesting thing. I just don't I it's a lot to like get into. It's like just more. things to get into.
Yeah, the normie side. I like how you put that. Fantastic. All right, so obviously you've been into artisans for a while now, and you've been sculpting them on stream by hand for numerous years now, and I think somewhat more recently, at least, you've gotten more into the casting side of it. Is that correct?
Yeah, I started doing a lot more casting. I would say maybe like more like a year or two now. I don't remember. I would say like when I went full time is when I went started doing more casting stuff because I had more time to do the casting stuff. Um, uh, Both have, their I think their place and pros and cons of each. Sorry, what was the question in that?
Um, well, it was kind of a multi-tiered question. I was more getting to, but basically, you've been sculpting caps for a long time, and now you're doing some casting with resin and such. Do you kind of have a preference between the more old-fashioned hand sculpted clay model versus the maybe newer pressure pot style casting?
Mm, I think it really depends on like the use case, not use case, but kind of the situation. For certain things where people just want like one of something specific, I think like I mean doing it just with clay on a keycap is a lot, I would say, easier or maybe like more time efficient because you just sculpt once and then it's like it's done, right? Like
Because you
you don't
still
have
have to
there's no
sculpt
waiting.
for resin casting, right? You sculpt a
Right.
master basically or something.
Exactly. You'd have to sculpt it and then you'd have to like make a mold for it and then you'd have to resin cast it and that just is the process is more involved. I do think that there are qualities of like resin that are in some ways better than clay. You can obviously coat clay with like finishes and it'll help protect it, but I would say durability wise, resin definitely has I would say longer lasting qualities. Like you can wash it, like it's just plastic. You can just run it underwater. If it gets dusty, I think like a clay cap is not as easy to wash. I think the properties of that are different. And just like smaller pieces are harder to do with clay because it's a lot more brittle at the like really tiny at when it's very very small it's and thin it's a lot more brittle than resin is, so things like that you have to take in. I think I just it just depends on what I'm doing, like if I'm being commissioned for a very specific design that not everybody will want, I guess, like if it's made for one person then I'm gonna try and do a commission just like a single cap kind of thing, but if it's a design that I want to do in multiple colorways and I want to make more of at once then I will go for resin casting. And there's like always a there's also like a mix of them. You can do a clay with a little bit of resin and stuff, and like vice versa, having clay encapsulated in resin as well. So doing a mix of those is also a cool way to kind of see them and like balance out the pros and cons of both.
Yeah, it seems like artisan making is a lot more complex than it used to be, and it's kind of interesting to see the level of quality that some of these makers are actually able to put out these days. Because, 4 or 5 years ago, like that certainly wasn't the case, and it's interesting to see all the changes that we've had so far.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think there are specific things or like properties to makers that might make them better at making artisans than others? Perhaps are there like things that are just good about artisan makers that you just have to have?
Um, I don't. I mean, I think it's like any other sort of art. I don't think the community itself is like catered towards certain kinds of makers. I think kind of what appeals. I don't. Um, Sorry, let me try to formulate my thoughts around that.
No problem.
Like if you make things that are I think it's like any sort of art. If you make popular content, like fan art sort of things, like making, for example, Pikachu or Kirby, obviously like you might be more successful in a sense that more people will want to buy your keycaps because it's more well known. It's kind of like a popular character and people like it's their favorite Pokemon or whatever. And so uh and people like to get things that they know about or they're a fan of. And so that might get you more popular within, I think, more of a bigger audience, but it just depends on who you want to appeal to or what your audience is. And if you're just making art for yourself, like you can do whatever heck you want and you'd be successful in that sense because you would just be making things that make you happy, right? And there's like the sense of people who just make original content, which I think is great because like that's just I think more of like the raw form of expression without expressing it through a specific existing character. And there's a lot of, yeah, there's artisans who don't make fan art. They just make original characters. And some of the community is really drawn to that and drawn to kind of just like really cool art. And it's not like, yeah, they're not, just they're making things because they want to and they have some sort of vision for um, this character or design that they have. Yeah, I think you can, I mean, success just, I guess, depends on like what you define that as. And different makers have different uh, I think ideas and kind of goals. Some people just do it for fun and they don't really plan on like making it or making it into their job, and it's just a hobby for them. They just like making stuff. Also, thank you for that gift sub.
Yes, Talisman Solutions. Thank you so much for that tier 1 gift sub. He's kind of a pro at gifting subscribers
Yeah,
in
I
this
can
channel.
see that.
He's a beast, yeah. So just taking a little aside from the artisans right now, I kind of want to focus on a lot of the more social media aspect stuff you've been doing lately, because obviously you kind of started in the ground as a Twitch content creator, but nowadays you're probably arguably more known as a kind of an Instagram and TikTok icon nowadays. And I kind of want to pick your brain on just how that lifestyle has been going for you now that your life is just kind of out there as a social media person like this.
Yeah, a lot has happened in the last, I would say, like 6 months. Started after I started doing TikTok content. I would say the Instagram growth comes pretty much from the TikTok kind of growth. So, I mean, I used to be on Instagram, but it wasn't until I started posting. I mean, I post the videos that I make for TikTok on Instagram. So, I guess the content has made me grow, but um, it's like a whole different beast in itself. I think it's really, I think my shift from, because I used to stream a lot more, and there's nothing, I still love streaming. I just tend to focus more on kind of like the content that I can make a video and then it can be watched a lot more than just like streaming at a specific time for people to watch. And I think people are really, I mean, yeah, people are really into really fast, like people don't have a lot of, you know, what do you call it, long attention span nowadays. So they're just into like really quick things, like show me, like process, but I want it in like 20 seconds or less, or I'm not gonna like watch it kind of thing.
Yeah.
So TikTok very much um, encapsulates that, and you want to make things quickly, you want to show the process, and people want to see like the process, but they want to see the finished product as well. And so I think the way that TikTok works has really, I don't know, it just kind of fits into my style of like making things. I tend to do like a lot more quantity kind of over quality kind of thing. Not that I don't care about quality, but I have made like a ton of keycaps, and when I first started out, that was like not my thing, but I just wanted to make more than just focus specifically on quality. Um, and I think that really works well for TikTok because I mean, I get to generate a lot of content. I can just make videos for every single keycap that I make. And it's, it's like a lot more relevant now that I didn't expect it to be, because I was like, oh yeah, people will probably will get into TikTok eventually. It's kind of like the same thing that happened, I think, with Instagram or with Twitter or like those social media platforms. It grows naturally, and then eventually people start using it as like their main social media platform. And because Facebook is kind of on the decline, I would say like people were gonna be moving towards TikTok eventually. But because of this like coronavirus stuff, it's like accelerated that to a significant degree because everyone is at home, and like now TikTok is, like, I would say exploding. I don't know. I just hear about it a lot more now, because of all the quarantine stuff, and people are just bored at home and have nothing else to do, and it's just one of the bigger platforms that has been growing from that. And so seeing the growth in that, and then like I mean, it feeds into, I guess, my growth. But I spend a lot of time making content for TikTok now, and it kind of like shifted me from doing less live stream content and more like thinking about just video content specifically. Like if I want to make videos for TikTok, or if I want to make longer videos and I can put on YouTube eventually, stuff like that. And how do I focus on that more than just streaming stuff? Um, and so I think I'm like, not that I haven't really like, it's not like it's new or anything. Like making videos has always been around. I think it just kind of helped me pivot a little bit because I did a lot of live streaming content. And to be really honest, like unless unless you're like regularly hitting like over, I would say like 100 like concurrent viewers, like not to put a number on things, but I think unless you're doing that, I think you're like the revenue that you get from live streaming is pretty not a lot in my experience. I don't know, maybe my numbers are super low or whatever like it is. I felt like I was streaming a lot and putting a lot of time into kind of like preparing for stream and doing things for stream, and I spend a lot of time like doing I did a talk show and I used to do like events. I I do still do them now and I still want to, but it's like the time that you put into that is a lot compared to like the money that you get out of it.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, and a lot of people like expect that like, oh yeah, you're just making money, like you're sitting there and like, you can just make money. But the thing is like as a not specifically content creator, like I'm not here just like there are people who are specifically just playing like not that it's an easy thing, but their content is them, you know, playing games or them being on camera. But my content, like it's like I can make keycaps and I can sell them. Like I could literally probably have made 10 keycaps and then sold them, and then that would be like an entire month of like my Twitch revenue. And at that point it's like uh I spend a lot of hours like on stream and doing things, and it just doesn't, it's like not money efficient. And I think people can, you can call me a sellout or whatever, but I'm a business, so I got to make money, I got to pay the
Yeah,
bills. So
absolutely.
it's like trying to figure out how to be more like efficient with my time. And like TikTok and Instagram. I haven't really done much for Instagram, but TikTok definitely has potential with like you can get brand sponsored, you can get sponsored from like playing music, like using certain music clips and stuff like that. And I didn't see a lot of that anywhere else. It was just it's mostly on TikTok, but if I can get paid that way, that like kind of actually also makes more sense for me to focus on the content there and focus on that platform. So a lot of my content has shifted into more making videos and that sort of thing, but uh, it means like I can make short videos there and not have to spend like longer time on stream, and then
Yeah.
I can still like it pays the bills, right? Like it, and it helps with like marketing as well.
Yeah. So like something like TikTok or those kind of social media platforms just wind up being better suited to your style of life versus, Twitch streaming and being that type of content creator.
Yeah,
Because
yeah, for sure.
there is a fair amount of back end work that goes into that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, of course. And like even being on stream it's like work. Some people think it's really easy, but you have to be like certainly like you have to be on, you have to be
you have to be on
entertaining,
exactly.
right? You have to be like you have to look at chat, you have to interact, and it's taxing. Like I would say at the core I'm still like I'm an introvert. I like talking to people, I like meeting people, but it's hard being like on all the time. And some people can do it, and that's like I all the props and like respect to them. But it was just a very much like after doing it for I I think I did part-time streaming like very consistently for I would say a good 2 or 3 years before it felt like, oh, this is like pretty tiring and not like I could be spending my time like to make more money so that I could do the stuff that I want to do more. And that's like I don't mean any like offense to, I mean my streaming community or anyone who has supported me like during that entire time. Like I did enjoy it. It was just very taxing. And I'm sure as like a content creator, you feel like there are certain things like it's hard to be on all the time. Um,
Yeah, there are some
yeah.
times where you're just not in the right mindset to stream that day,
Mhm.
and I'm very familiar with that. I completely understand. Touching on the same kind of subject, though, I think a lot of people often kind of give Teja types the limelight when it comes to like content creators that are, I don't know, sort of leading our community to new heights, you might say. But if we're taking into social media accounts here, you obviously have a really serious reach as well, and you're constantly spreading the awareness of keyboards because of stuff like that, and it's really cool. But do you ever feel the kind of need or burden to actually help educate a lot of the new people that come into the community because of you? I know I talked recently with Nathan a little bit about this, and he often feels that kind of burden that you have to be that presence, that community leader to kind of educate all of your viewers on kind of what's right and what's wrong in the community, and to teach them these kind of things. And do you ever kind of feel that as well, being a TikTok icon of millions of followers now?
I can't get over you calling me an icon.
I don't mean it in a
um,
bad way, I
I
swear.
know, I know. It's like a weird um it's like I don't feel like I'm that famous, but having like a million, anywhere close, I think, to a million followers on any platform is like kind of insane. Like I
It's
just,
big.
it's
It's big.
hard to wrap my mind around sometimes because I just don't like, I don't really see, it just, it happened and I'm like, it's insane. And so, and randomly people have uh, I played randoms with like squat like in Apex and somebody was in like my team and I don't think I was ended up talking about I think TikTok for some reason and I was like yeah like I'm on TikTok. She's like, are you TikTok famous? And I was like, yeah, I'm not real, I mean not that big, I just make keycaps. And she's like, wait, I think I'm following you. And she's like, yeah, I totally am following you, kind of thing. And it's so like you just meet random people who kind of know who you are, like, which is a weird concept to me because I mean like I get people who know me from the community. But the community is like pretty small compared to like normal population.
Yeah.
But in that sense, yes, like I think it's a little bit hard with the content that I do specifically because I think some people still have a hard time like recognizing that it's mechanical keyboards because it kind of just seems like a weird art to them, like kind of like quirky or like, oh, it's just like this random thing that she's doing. Because I'm doing a series on TikTok where I'm just making the entire keyboard, like I'm just replacing all the keys with like artisan keycaps basically, and I'm just making them like food.
Yeah.
And it's a joke, like it's not meant to be a serious typing experience. It would be a terrible typing experience, I think, and I don't recommend it. But people see it and they're like, oh, it's just kind of like, I don't know if everybody has made the connection that it's like, oh, it's a mechanical keyboard or this is part of the mechanical keyboard hobby, but just that like, oh, she's doing cool keyboard art. um but that's like kind of my end goal, or that's like what I always want to like kind of direct people towards. Like I want people to see like, hey, you can make cool keyboards, like you can have a cool keyboard, you can customize your keyboard. And that's like my end goal where I want people to think about or to like realize. And I can't tell, like with TikTok sometimes it's a very wild west like kind of platform. I literally get like thousands, if not like tens or hundreds of thousands of comments, and I can't read them all because half of them, more than half of them, are just people shouting out like suggestions for the board, like V for vodka, and like, yeah, I don't know, just random stuff. Like I literally don't, I can't read every comment. I wish I could, but I can't. I think people are sort of realizing it. I do get a lot more questions, I think, nowadays, like how do you make keycaps, or like what do you do, or like when I post about keyboard stuff on my like Twitter, I'll get people who are like, oh, like I don't know anything about keyboards, or like, oh, this is really cool and I like want to know more, like kind of like, do you have any recommendations? And like I want to be able to help people, but I can't. I don't have the time to like personally DM everybody and like walk them through like the kind of like basics of either artisans or keyboards in general. And I really wish I could. I don't have the time for that. And I feel like there aren't that many resources out there that are like that. I think Nathan might have actually mentioned wanting to do some content like that, which would be great. Then I could just like watch this video and like,
Yeah.
like, and there's some guides that people have written. I'm sure there's some stuff out there. I like usually will link like this wire cutter guide about like keyboards and stuff. And I've like talked a lot about it, so much so that I'm like, I should just make a video or like some sort of written thing that I always go like, these are the same things that I talk about anyway when I tell people, if people ask me what keyboards I recommend, I might as well just write it down or make a video of me doing it once, and then I could just like link it to people if people ask me questions, like, or like basics or whatever, basics of making keycaps or something like that. And like I'm I do feel like it's like I feel bad when I can't explain things to people because I don't have the time to, because it is a very big like hurdle, I feel like, for mechanical keyboards in general. Maybe not like making keycaps, but keyboards in general, I think, have a big hurdle to get to a point where you like actually understand what's going on. If you read any post in ARMK, like
Yeah.
it's just foreign language. If you're there for the first time, you're like, what the heck? Like, what do these words mean? Like, I know these words, but I don't know them in the context of like keyboards. And so it it's very like daunting, and I've gotten a lot of messages of people like my friends who like my Twitter friends or whatever, they who are like, oh, like I really want to buy a keyboard but I have like no idea where to start. Like I tried looking and it was just so like overwhelming, and then I kind of like will walk them through some questions and like, this is like how I understand things, this is the very basics of what it is, and like let me like try to help you out in that way. Like so I'll do that like obviously for my friends, because they're my friends and I want them to understand it. And I wish there were an easier way to get people into keyboards without like having to give them like a long paragraph of things to like understand, or like I think there are some videos about it. I'm sure like Linus Tech Tech probably did a video on it. It's just like a lot of information. So yes, I do feel sort of the burden because I want, but it's less of a, oh, I feel like I need to, but like, oh, I want people to know about this, and I want people to understand it because I think it's a really great, I just like it a lot. Like I think it's a great hobby. I think there's a lot of things you can do with it, and I want people to be like at that stage where they actually understand like, oh, this is cool, or like, oh, I can mod my switches, I can loop stuff, I can get keycaps and key sets that match my keyboard, but it just takes a lot to get to that point.
Yeah, the barrier of entry definitely much much higher now than it used to be, especially in the enthusiast community with all the enthusiast great stuff now we have with customs and all the new recolored switches that are coming out lately, and all the
Yeah.
custom Discord exclusive keyboard group buys and stuff like that. It's hard to know what you should always be doing in this hobby, especially if you're trying to become a little bit more serious in it. But one thing I want to talk a little about that you were doing for a while that I thought was a really, really cool idea is obviously with this whole pandemic, it's a little bit difficult nowadays, but for a while you were going from meetup to meetup with this kind of Twitch stream setup on your back, and you were live streaming meetups. And it was a really, really cool thing. And I was curious if that was something we can kind of look forward to seeing more so in the future, or if that was ever kind of ironed out. Because I know you're having some issues with it here and there, but it was really cool to just kind of bring people to meetups virtually. And I thought that was a really amazing thing that you were doing for a while.
Yeah, I really did enjoy doing that. That kind of content always, like kind of like the backpack IRL content, is really interesting to me because I think it's really cool to be able to move around and like, and you kind of get this like point of view from whoever's wearing the backpack. Like you get to experience it as they're experiencing it. It's almost like a VR thing, but like, I guess, yeah, it's not virtual, it's actual reality. So I stopped doing it because it's expensive and it wasn't like, again, a lot of things just boil down to money, and I really wish, like sometimes I just wish I just had a lot of money so then I could do things without like having to worry about like, oh, this is expensive and
Yeah.
not like, right, like it costs about, I think every line that you have, every modem that you have in the backpack that like has internet is $150 a month. And then like at some point I started out with 4 because that's what they recommend, like, which is a kind of overkill, I think. But like 2 or 3 is probably definitely good enough. But having 4 is like $600 a month, and then I went to one meetup a month, so I was paying $600 for like one stream kind of thing, and like I get nowhere
Yeesh. Yeah.
near that. And like, and I think I did ask for donations, but it's really hard to be like, oh, like every stream to be asking for donations and stuff like that. I don't want to be like just trying to do that. So if any company wants to sponsor me for $600 a month, I will gladly wear the backpack and I will wear your brand on me and put it on the stream. If that's what it takes to to do
Yeah.
that,
Absolutely.
like I would happily do that. And it's like, yeah, it's a great experience because I think new people who are in like who are maybe not no don't know anything about the hobby can really get a glimpse of what it's like, because they're like, oh my gosh, there's just so many keyboards here. And then you get like all of kind of like the variants, hi James, of keyboards in one place. And I actually, that's like the one thing that I recommend the most to people if they're like, how do I, like, I want to try out different switches. Like, what's the best way to do that? And I'm like, go to a meetup, because that is like by far the easiest way to try out a whole bunch of different switches, like different profiles of keycaps, because everyone's going to have some form or like it, almost not every, but like a lot of different varieties of keycap profiles will be there, different switches, like different layouts, different materials. Like you just have everything there in one place, and then it's a great place to go because you actually get to talk to people. And so I like going to those and sharing about them because it's like a really cool experience to be able to show that. And also like you get to meet makers, you get to meet creators, people who are in the community who are just members of the community. And I think it's a really great way to connect people in the community. And so I wish I could keep doing it, but it is really honestly like a cost thing. Like I already pay like to go to the meetups. I mean, obviously I can expense it as a
Yeah.
business expense, but still I have to pay for it, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's
you still
still
have to pay for it.
yeah, like I still have to go to like, and I can't just like go to every single meetup and like I have to spend money on flights and hotels and stuff like that. So, and on top of that, having to pay for the data is like a lot. And so I would love to keep doing it. I actually bought stuff to like instead of just I mean it can get boring after a while because a lot of meetups are kind of like not the same, but it's like the same format where you just have a lot of keyboards. And I can only type on keyboards for so long, but I thought it was fun to like do challenges. I did it for some of the meetups that I did went to, like make people do weird stuff to like get keycaps, and I wanted to do like little competitions or something to
It
like
was
not embarrass
fantastic
people.
content. It was amazing content. It really was. I really enjoyed every stream that I watched of that. Because, like, you're so creative with that stuff. Like, it's not just, like, walking around a meetup. Like, you put so much more effort into that, and it really shows, and it's fantastic to watch. And someone out there needs to sponsor Tiny to keep doing this, because I had no idea. I knew it costed a lot. I knew it wasn't cheap, but I didn't realize it was that expensive.
Yeah. I mean, you can maybe get by with like one modem, so that's $150 a month, but that's still like a cost that's going somewhere that you don't get like immediate payout or anything from
Yeah.
other than just like paying that fee, right? So I mean, I would love to, and maybe I don't know, maybe I can get someone to sponsor me now that I'm a big TikTok star or whatever.
Icon. You got to use the word icon.
Like maybe I can get some sponsors. We'll see. But yes, it kind of will be, but maybe I'll take this time where I can't actually use it to find sponsors. And then when everything is open back up again, and once we can do meetups again, maybe I'll be ready to go.
Talisman says Top Clack should sponsor. I don't think Top Clack makes enough money to really sponsor much of anything. But maybe I don't know. If we can get Tiny set up with a Top Clack backpack. Okay, wait, I'll work on it, guys. Don't worry. Anyway, so getting back on topic here, I recall we had a conversation. This was years ago, obviously, and I know you mentioned earlier that you're kind of full time at this now. But I remember previously in a conversation that you and I had, you didn't really seem too gung ho about being a full time content creator or anything like that. And I think at that point, at in time you still had another job, but what kind of changed in your mind to make you want to make that transition over to being a full time content creator or icon?
um, I think I don't remember having that conversation. I have terrible memory, so that
I
might be
usually do,
it.
but when it comes to like usernames and the conversations I've had with people, it's like I've always got it. I'm always on.
I think maybe at that point I was like, I think specifically it probably was pertaining to Twitch. Like, I don't think I could ever be a full time Twitch streamer in that sense, where like I'm just online for like, 40 hours a week kind of thing. I don't think like that kind of content I cannot create full time. But speaking as like a content creator, if my content, like half of it is like keycaps, and the other half is like I just make content surrounding me making keycaps, like the process of or whatever. I just take pictures of the keycaps. That I can do because it's like it focuses on this thing that I really like doing, which is just making things. Like at the core of I think maybe I don't know more than just me. I think other humans experience this, but at the core of me, I like making things, and I like making things that like make people happy. I want people to enjoy the things that I make like as much as I enjoy them kind of thing. And so like I wasn't getting that from my full-time job. I mean I make things. I was a software engineer, but I didn't feel like I didn't have any ownership of it as well. Like if you work for any company, like right, you're just doing work for some other person or some bigger
Yeah,
conglomeration, right? Nothing you really make belongs to you, even if you are some big shot, unless you're the CEO, I think. But it still belongs to the company, right? Like
yeah.
um, and so yeah, it just felt like I wanted to. I reached a point where I felt like I wasn't getting any like full satisfaction from like working that job, even though the money like pays pays well, like it pays the bills, like it just didn't feel like me, like at the core of it. And I just felt like I was at a point where I just needed to explore another option, other options in general, and just kind of, yeah, just break out of that and see what it's like to just make stuff myself. And so, yeah, there was a point where I had to make a decision specifically, like, do I want to do full time art or full time PCAPs kind of thing, and then like just quit my job. And it made sense to me in that point, and still does. Like, I don't regret it that I would go down and that path and just try to do my own things.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously now we've kind of had a look at where you've come from the beginning of this hobby, as well as where you are now. But where do you kind of see yourself going from here on out? Do you plan on making any kind of serious changes coming forward, or are you just going to kind of ride it out and see what's happening?
Um, I honestly don't plan like that far ahead. I'm just I'm a bad planner. I kind of take things like, I think maybe at most I think about like the year ahead. Like, here are the things I want to focus on. And so, I mean, I think I see myself doing like, I just want to make more video content. I don't know, maybe do YouTube if I can. I don't really. It's like a whole nother, every time you go on a new platform, it's just a whole other like monster that you have to like fight. Like, you have to like learn how to edit, and like it's a lot different than streaming. That's for sure. And there's a lot of different like kind of like aspects to it that you would have to learn. And so I mean, I want to focus more on that. And I think I'm still sticking with keycaps. I get that question, I think, sometimes, where people are like, where like, do you want to make keycaps like in 5 years? Do you see yourself still making keycaps? Like, for the time being, yes. Like, that's what I am still really into. And I think I haven't reached a point where, I don't know if I'll ever be like done, but there are still a lot of things I haven't done yet. And that's why I'm like still really interested in kind of investing my time and just like focusing on keycaps for the time being. I don't think like, I'm not saying I will forever be in keycaps, though. I think there's always, who knows if, I don't know, keycaps will be around in, 10, 20 years. Maybe we'll all go virtual and we'll just be like digital beings and nobody uses a keyboard anymore. I don't know. Or like,
That's true.
who knows? Maybe I will lose interest. I have no idea. I just know that a lot of the things that you learn in any job, I would feel like, unless you have a really, really specific job, you can kind of apply to other things. And what I've learned about, I guess, art and kind of business and, I don't know, marketing, networking, all of that can be applied to other things if I choose to do that, right? Like, I could maybe like
Yeah.
pivot into like toys, or like people make sculptures, like I can go bigger, and I can make like jewelry if I wanted to, resin casting and like sculpting. They're they aren't specific to the keycap community. There's a lot of different art mediums that use those kind of things, so I could always pivot into something else if I lose interest. I kind of go like where it just feels like where I want to be right now, and keep like the keyboard community is where I want to be right now.
Well said. Well said. All right, and with that, I think now is probably as good a time as any to throw it over to Twitch chat here and do just a little brief Q&A before we head out for the night. So, if you guys have questions for Tiny specifically, not me, if you want to ask me questions, just join the Discord link below, and you can yell at me whenever you want. But of course, now that we have Tiny here, and of course she is wonderful to devote this time to us, make sure you can maybe extrapolate some information from her there. Also, shout out to James Bardolph for being in chat too. I don't see enough of that guy around the keyboard hobby, but it's always a pleasure when I do.
He's too busy being
He's
a famous
he's too busy actually being cool. He's too busy being what we pretend that we are. But he's actually going to start us off with our first question here. He's asking, "What's your favorite keycap that you have made?"
I actually get that question a lot too. And I don't know how to answer that question because it's not like picking my favorite child. I don't even know how that, like, I don't know how that feels. I have no children. So
Let's not pretend how this feels. All right, I think that's a bad idea.
but like it's like I've made a lot of different caps that I like really like. I think I can just switch my, it's fine. I'm just gonna, the burger by far is probably one of my more like well-known caps. I think it's just a really like cute thing. Like it's just a cute idea, right? Like the idea of the whole keycap being a little burger. Like I feel like that
I
really
know.
resonates with people. I don't know. It's just people like it, and I like how it's still kind of keycap shaped. Some of the things I make like kind of distort whatever thing it is into something else, or like sometimes I just sculpt on top of a keycap and it's not really keycap shaped at all. And I think I like that it does take that form of like it's still keycap, but it's also a burger. Like you can kind of still see that. Um, I do like the Corby a lot, but it's also like there's like weird sun in my face. It's not. It's like copyright, right? And so or
Yeah.
trademark, but it's just a cute idea because he Kirby has a big mouth and you can kind of press your finger into that hole.
It's
Sounds
a
weird, but
great
yeah.
sculpt, honestly. I know Discord is being very mean to our call quality right now, but could you show off the burger cap if you happen to have it handy?
Yes. Should I search my camera?
Oh, you can do that. Yeah. Maybe that'll tone down Discord's hatred for a second.
Um,
All right. Fancy. All right. Discord's still being mean, but that's okay.
no, that probably looks terrible.
I'm sorry, guys. This is Discord's fault. It was fine
I
earlier. I
don't even know
promise.
how to like.
Yeah, we get the general point across for that. That makes sense. It really is adorable though, and it still keeps like a remotely cap-like shape as well,
Right, right.
which is kind of nice as well. Because some artisans, that's kind of the thing with artisans, right? Like with keyboards, it's almost always kind of a journey of finding like what is ergonomically and like physically the most comfortable and the best for you.
Mhm.
And with artisans, it's like it's sometimes maybe hard to make them ergonomic
Yeah.
to your finger. Let's say.
Yes. It's true. Or even like into a keycap. There I have gotten like the weird not weirdest, but they're just like things that like I don't know how people are imagining them as keycaps. Like people like all the food ones that I've like gotten requests for, like people be like a quesadilla. And I'm trying to imagine like it would just be literally like a flat, like circular thing sitting on top of a keycap. Like I don't know, like that doesn't look like that would even be like look good, or maybe I guess it could be like a triangle. I don't know. Some things I just don't feel like they would look good as keycaps. Like I get a lot of requests for like tacos, and I'm like, I guess you could put like tacos on top of the keycap, but literally I could just buy a miniature taco and glue it on top of a keycap, and that like that's not really any like I mean it could be art, but it just feels less like integral, you know.
People are making so many weird food suggestions. You probably get a lot of this, don't you? A lot of people are just
I
like, make a cap
yeah.
out of this, like because you make
Yes.
caps, so do this.
Yeah. Mashed potatoes.
Rice. Oh
um
man,
did make rice cooker because I
people
thought rice would look weird. So I
people are
made a little
creative.
rice cooker. Yeah.
People are creative.
There are certain things that are like very that you can think about and try to convert into a keycap, and I think that's like part of the cool aspect of I guess of artisan keycaps, or like it's kind of fun for me because I can think about certain things and try to make them into a more keycap like shape, and how I can make a certain like item or character into a keycap. So I like that exercise where there are some things that I just don't think would look good as a keycap, and it's like I don't know how people are like thinking about it because I don't know if they are. They're shouting out things at
Fair
me.
enough. Cody is asking, what is your current favorite keycap set?
I just or I'm getting GMK Noel, which I think is beautiful
Oh, thank
and
you. A
pretty
lot of people
and
don't like
soft.
that set, but I like it as well.
Why?
I ordered it day
Maybe people
one.
don't like it.
A lot of people don't like it. I ordered it day one though. I am a fan, so I'm looking forward to it.
What are people's criticisms of that set?
You know,
Is it a little too like girly
a
or
lot of people
something?
don't like certain colors, I guess. So they don't like certain combinations of colors. So they don't like anything if it's based on anime or maybe too close to
Ah,
anime or something.
hmm,
Which is
like
actually,
anti.
would you say that's your current favorite keycap set though? Because that was his question.
Um, yeah, that's a hard question because it really depends on like what kind of aspect, like what kind of like look I'm going for, or aesthetic. I think it's the one first one that popped into my head because it's a recent one. Um,
Sure,
I don't have it yet, so I don't like it's
that's
not going
fair.
to come out for a very long time, so I don't know what it actually looks like.
what is
Yes.
your favorite keycap set that you do own?
Also a very hard question. I own probably over like 20 sets at this point, and some of them are still in packaging and haven't been opened for like 2 years, which
Oh,
makes
you're one of those people. Oh my god, you literally are a J replacement. You own all this cool stuff and you don't even
I
do
have
anything with
also
it.
like 5 keyboards that I haven't even opened like the box yet, and I've gotten them as packages. That's because I'm supposed to build them. I bought them so I could have them and build them, but like the Doro 67, I think, which came out like over a year ago, I have not built or even like opened the package of yet.
A lot of people not happy with that one anyways, so maybe you're
I
okay
know,
on
I
it.
know. I really, I did really like DSA Magic Girl.
Magic.
For
Yeah,
a,
it's a good one.
I actually don't like DSA a lot because I think the problem may have not been fixed, but it depends on the manufacturer. But I just really got annoyed by how like the the keycaps aren't like usually lined up, and the space between the keycaps like are like irregular. I don't know if
Yes.
you've like, yeah,
Yeah,
obviously
I know
you've seen
exactly
that.
what you're talking about. It's basically the orientation of the stem and how it can kind of appear a little bit more clockwise or counterclockwise than some of the
Yeah.
other caps. And when you get
Yeah.
several of those together, it starts to look real strange.
Yeah, and there's like big gaps. Well, big like that I can see like if you were looking at the keycap like top down, you can see these big gaps, and it just bothered the heck out of me. Like for DSA, I think like Granite was one of the first ones that I got, and then I actually bought that set like maybe 2 or 3 times to like try and like it because I liked the look of it. I just couldn't when I put it on a board, I just noticed all the gaps, and I was like, the pictures don't show this because sometimes I mean the pictures are like side views of it or like kind of like at an angle so you don't see those gaps. Now I don't think I really noticed that much with GSA Magic Girl. Maybe it's a different manufacturer. I don't know. I don't actually know. Maybe it's been fixed. Maybe I just don't notice it because the colors are nice. I don't know.
Yeah, I think DSA Magic Girl is made by Key Creative. Obviously, Twitch chat will correct me if I'm wrong because Twitch chat's very good at that. But yeah, I'm pretty sure Signature Plastics doesn't make it, and I know Signature Plastics has struggled with that in the past because all of my DSA sets are exactly as you described. Like you just can't have like a consistent level of orientation on DSA for some reason. But that's good that Magic Girl is potentially better. In the same vein, though, kind of a follow up question from Kakan here. He's asking, "Who is your waifu?"
I
Are
I
you,
don't know how to answer that question.
you're probably not like an anime person, are you? That's
I'm not a
fine.
weeb,
You're not a
but
weeb. That's okay. You don't need a waifu. It's fine. Sorry, Kakan. No waifus. Oh man, sorry. Still trying to sort through a couple of these questions. Scott Water is asking, "What board is on Tony's desk now?" I don't even know who Tony is.
that's me probably. Um,
I
Probably
know it's
just
kind of a joke,
autocorrect.
but
Okay.
yeah. What keyboard are you? I think someone else asked this before, but what
It's
keyboard are
very
you
it's
currently
no,
using?
it's really my actual keyboard is kind of embarrassing because I just oftentimes I'm just really lazy and I just don't like to replace things. So Logitech, who have worked with in the past before, they sent me one of these their hot swappable keyboard, which I think is great. There's still some like minor things that I'm like, why is your bottom row still not standard? Like I don't understand. But like the fact that they have a hot swappable board as like a purchasable option as a main like kind of like mainstream brand is really cool. Anyway, so it is their like hot swappable board, and I think I got it I think a couple months ago, and I just kept it on. Yeah, it's just on my desk, so it's very not hobby esque. Normally, I would actually have my Leopold 660C with the heavy six case. I have a
Oh, you have a heavy six. Are you a Norbauer fan then?
I am a Norbach fan.
Very nice.
He is a very he makes very cool stuff, and he's a very cool person. Like super interesting, very super smart. And I have like a I got it custom powder coated at a local place. So it's like a light green, mint green kind of
Ooh.
color. And I liked it cuz it was a lot quieter than having blues or any clicky switch. Uh,
All right, fair enough. Orange Josh is asking, "Have you ever drawn on blanks before?" maybe a different approach to artisan making. He says, I've had enjoyed PBT blanks and I couldn't resist drawing on them. Hand drawn legends.
No, I have not. I've done very little painting. I know that like some people will do like in miniatures or sort of like small things like you or even just like clay, people who do polymer clay charms and small sculptures like will paint. I again lazy, so I just want to have the color on there, so I just use colored like the polymer clay is already colored. I've done very little actual painting on top of like actual keycaps because I don't even think I paint well, so I don't think that that never occurred to me to just try and paint keycaps. Although I've seen people do it before.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
All right. Well, if anyone has any last minute questions, make sure you get those in now. Use the @TopClack tag so I can pick them out of the chat a lot easier if you wouldn't mind, guys. And I think now's probably a good time as any since we're going to be wrapping it up momentarily. To maybe go ahead and shill whatever you want. I know, obviously, you being much larger than Top Clack doesn't really help the shilling, but I'd be remiss if I didn't let you shill, just like I let everyone else shill.
I don't. I just if you like cute stuff, I don't know, pastel things. I make cute keycaps on. I mean, I don't even know. Like, I guess I'm just Tiny Makes things on most platforms, TikTok and Instagram and Twitter. I'm pretty active on. I will stream sometimes, but they're kind of few and far between nowadays. But I try to when I can. Um, I have a key set that will probably be in IC forever, I think,
Pastel.
because I just can't. I don't know how to
people
like
people
finish
ask
the
me if
set.
that's coming, and I'm like, why are you asking me if that's coming?
I don't know how to like I don't know how to like I think I have a lot of ideas that I like put into play because I just want to do things and I just don't know how to like what do you call it? Yeah, I just actually execute them to completion. It's an idea that I had like maybe 3 years ago, and now there are a lot more like cute sets and pastel things. I mean, even GMK Noel probably shares almost a very similar palette to the pink and the blues at least. So I feel like if I run it, it kind of might look similar to that, except with like yellow alphas, which a lot of people have very big opinions on. And it's like very hard to run a set because people just have a lot of opinions. And I don't like, I want
Yes.
obviously I want it to be a success, but like, how do you balance like being like, okay, I'm just gonna run it the way I see it versus trying to like sort of cater it to what people like suggestions that are given to you. Obviously, like you want to take in if people have criticisms, like if it's a majority, like I feel like that would make sense to listen and to like take that into consideration. But at the same time, I'm like, this is the vision that I had for this key set, and like now it's been I think 3 years or something since that I've like
2017 is when you interest checked it first. Yeah.
um yeah, so I would love to make it happen. I think I talked to Novelties about it, but I just at this time like all Gym K sets are like backed up for the next year or something like that. Like they already have a bunch of sets going on, and I don't like I have a lot of stuff going on, so I always just I like never have enough time. And I really want to get it done because I think like once it's done, then I won't be like, oh, I won't feel this kind of like not dread, but kind of just like, oh, it's there and I haven't done it yet. Which would be nice not to have hanging over my head.
You were trying to do it in GMK, right? Pastel?
Yeah, I was trying to do GMK because I think there's not a lot of pastel sets in GMK, and maybe not for good reason, but like it's hard to get some of those colors right.
Yeah, we
I'm not going
see
to
we see
point
some
any
people trying
fingers.
pastel sets these days. PBT seems to be the material that a lot of the pastel
Yeah,
sets have been going with lately. I've
yeah,
noticed.
yeah, yeah. I think it's because it's I don't know, maybe the material is just easier to match to certain colors and stuff like that. But I like the look of GMK a lot. It just looks very clean and it's very nice. It's like kind of like not luxury, but just more on the high end of stuff. So I would love for it to be in GMK, but at this point I'm just like, yeah, I don't know when it'll happen, but
It
if
would,
you're interested in pastel, there's actually a current PBT set that you should go and check out. But if you're interested in GMK pastel, maybe if you bug me more, I will be annoyed and try to get it done faster.
all right, there you go. Heidi says to harass her with more GMK pastel information. Very,
Let me
very
see.
nice. Ten Strong is asking what your least favorite switch is. Least favorite switch to type on.
Um, I have I even um I didn't.
You tend not to care too much about that kind of stuff. I feel
Yeah,
like,
I'm
which is
like
fine. It's totally
pretty.
valid.
Yeah, I'm not like really specific about my switches. I like didn't like I don't like linears in general. I would say like as a like a group. So that's like, but I have liked some linears and I do appreciate like how smooth they are. But I think at the ones even within linears that I liked are not like the linears that people uh generally like. Like I liked the MX Silence and people are like that's so like it's kind of like squishy, not squishy, but it's like um it's smooth but it also has like a cushiony feel to it. And I
It's
think people
yeah.
like their linears to be more like crisp. And so it was like
Yeah.
it's not a very popular linear, I feel like, but I
It's
like
it
them.
it enjoyed some success. It was fairly popular. It's starting to make a comeback now. I think actually.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't like other I mean the other linears haven't appealed to me that much. I think I can appreciate them, but like I haven't been like, oh I gotta build a board with them. So I'd say certain linears.
All right, fair enough. Payot is asking, Tiny, have you ever made Adventure Time artisans? I would so want one of those, BMO especially.
So yeah, for people who haven't been around when I started, one of my more like popular, so there's two, I guess, BMOs. One of them I just made out of clay, and I don't even think I have one here. It's if you scroll down on my Instagram, it's there somewhere. That I just made like it's just BMO's face. And then I did a collab with Retro Chick, who isn't as active in the
That's a
community
name I haven't
anymore.
heard in years. Wow.
And she actually did, so it was a collab, but she like I don't anytime anyone asks, I'm like, she did all of the work for that. Like it was a collab in its name because I think she like asked me for permission kind of thing and just wanted to work with me in a sense where I could help promote it because I did make a BMO before, but I don't own BMO and like not my sculpt. It's just an I really like BMO. I bought this actually just yes. I just received this yesterday. It's a BMO little sculpture light thing. It glows on the
That's
right side.
adorable.
And it's very cute. But yeah, so there's an actually resin casted BMO that it's called Chemo. And a lot of people really like that, and I really like that too because it was resin casted and it made use of like clear resin to be able to let light shine through, like on the face part. Um, but I didn't do any of the casting for that, and so I can't actually cast those even if I wanted to. And because it also she's the one who made them, I don't have like not permission, but I would have to ask her if I wanted to remake anything kind of like similar to that. I would want to make sure it's okay with her first, and I haven't like I just it's been not a thing that I've been trying to do. So I really like BMO and I would love to make BMO keycaps, but at this point I would only make like the clay ones, and I just my commissions have been closed for a very long time because I have they take a very long time. So the short answer is yes, but it might be hard to get one. Um,
Do you tend to make a lot of caps like for yourself these days, or is it mostly just commissions and things for other people at this point?
um, I think more recently a lot of them have been like brand deals, maybe specifically. So they're kind of like commissions, but like commissions with companies, which is pretty
Yeah,
cool.
that's
So
cool.
I recently did something for Xbox. I think I don't know why they say they're Xbox because the game is on PC, but it was for Gears of War, and they recently released.
Microsoft.
Yeah, Microsoft, which is I mean Xbox is owned by Microsoft, and so um, I think the team that reached out to me said they were Xbox, and so but they were working on this PC game, and so I got to make keycaps for Gears of War, which is really awesome. And then more recently, like I sometimes try to work with like smaller indie, not indie companies, but just smaller like not triple A gaming companies to try to like do some promotion for them, especially if I'm a fan of the game myself, and like I tend to like games that have like really cute art or something like that, and so um, it makes sense for me to do specific commissions for them. Yeah, so I do a lot less like commissiony stuff, like for people specifically, and then I do more work with companies and like more generic stuff that I can make a lot of, if that makes sense. Like less commissions and more like, oh, I can make a sculpt for just like a generic sculpt that I could make more of and make molds of, like Corby and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's just more of like efficiency at that point.
Yeah, it is really like it's hard. I don't really, yeah. Specifically speaking, it's like I could spend, it's also because like, so commissions I've had problems like with pricing, not problems, but I used to price them like pretty low because I just felt like people weren't interested in buying keycaps that were like over $100 kind of thing. But at this point, if I spend like 3 hours on a keycap and I only charge, like even if I do charge $100 and I spend like 2 or 3 hours on it, like uh that's still like I could spend that time probably making like a batch of resin casted keycaps, and like I could sell them for a lot more than the commission price of one single keycap, if that makes sense. Like the
Yeah.
math that the math of the time that I spend per keycap doing commissions actually, like I'm not losing money, but like it's just a lot less money. And
As a
at that
business,
point it's
time is money.
less. Yeah, exactly. And so it seems like less efficient to do that. And yeah, it's kind of just like that kind of thing. And maybe like maybe me making keycaps on TikTok will allow more people to make keycaps, and then like other people can do them. Because I think like it's not like I'm the only person, but I feel like there's not a lot of people who do like kind of like clay or specific commission work, which makes it hard because then people like are like, oh, I know you do commissions, but like I'm only one person, so there's a lot of people who want commissions, and maybe more people will do commissions if it
Yeah,
becomes.
you just happen to be like at the forefront of this, though. So like, all a lot of this just goes through you first. Honestly, just being in the position that you're in.
Yeah, yeah, and so yeah, it's hard to like justify certain like unless, and if you really want a commission and if you throw money at me, I will do it. Like that's just how it is. Like if you're saying like I will pay you $300 to make this keycap, like it's more so likely that I will probably take that because it's like money, like talks or whatever. It's like,
That's efficient. Yeah.
yeah, like I will do that because like other than like, I mean, it's hard because it's a paywall. Like people can't afford that. Like I would say most people can't afford that, and I totally get that. Like I don't expect people to pay $300 for a keycap, but like money is a big factor behind like how I spend my time. So
Yeah,
that's why.
and it's also just like art too. Like it's hard for most people to like quantify the price of art, especially
Yeah,
like when it differs from person to person. It's like how do you like really know?
right.
It's always mostly going to default at least to like what it means to that individual person that's paying the money, obviously. And if
Yeah.
someone's willing to happily and easily pay you $300 for a cap that you can make, then yeah, then there's no
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah, exactly. Um, what sort of things I
Yeah,
do?
and like James Bardolph in chat mentioned, says, yeah, it's a long term purchase as well. Yeah, I mean, it's art can be an investment as well. If it's
Yeah.
something that you're gonna sit on your desk or like on your wall and like you're gonna look at it for the rest of your life or whatever, like it's there's that it's
Yeah.
things are worth different things to different people, and I think that's totally fine.
Yeah. And people get mad, like not mad, but like they're kind of like, wow, that's so expensive, or like, how could you charge that much for a keycap? And I, I'm like, I don't know. Sometimes I don't understand people because it's like, like certain paintings cost like, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and yeah, it's like it's a painting, so it's bigger, but like it's not. It's like flat. Sometimes people quantify things by like size. So they're like, oh, like it's so small. Like why would that like cost $100? Like that's crazy, or that's insane. And then like you have things that are like Supreme clothing that like costs a lot of money, or like if you go to like Tiffany's website, like their stuff costs like it's like luxury items. It's like a tiny, I don't know, like they make paper clips that are like $100 and stuff like that. And
Yeah,
so it's like I don't know, people have what they spend money on what they want, and
it's a
art is
luxury hobby.
very hard to quantify. Yeah, it is.
It
It's
is.
literally art
I mean,
on your keyboard, so
how many people out there need an artisan keycap? Like need.
zero.
Exactly. Like people aren't here because like they're not being like, oh, that's bad artisan value. Like sure that might be true like in some ways, but at the same time like you
Yeah.
can't quantify that because it really is art. It really is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah. Anyways, back to a question here before we head out. Ten's got one last one asking if you've ever done any Star Fox artisans.
Nope. I don't think so. I've done foxes, but not specifically star fox.
Uh,
Certain creatures are a little bit harder to do if they have ears. Mostly because I'm concerned about their ears being like obstructive to like there's certain ways you can sculpt it that it like fits within the keycap like shape, but at times certain things just have like larger ears and it's very hard to do on a keycap that like it would kind of feel
hit
like it
other
would bump into
keycaps.
the case. Yeah, either hit the case or other keycaps next to it. So yeah, no one has liked Star Fox enough to request him, I think.
Well, there you go, Ted Strong. You might be the first
You get it first.
up to the challenge. And with that, I think that is where we're going to call it for today, guys. So, Tiny, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to hang out with us, Joe Schmoes here. We definitely appreciate all of your time, and I
My
hope everyone
pleasure.
out there learned as much as I did today, because that was quite eye-opening to me. So, yes, thank you so much, Tiny. And
Yeah,
thank
happy
you.
to be here. Thank you for having me as a guest.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks to all of you out there that have been watching. Make sure you check below the stream. You can join our official Discord, our YouTube channel, all that mumbo jumbo. You guys know the drill. But of course, make sure you go check out Twitch TV/Tiny, as well as check her out on Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff. You're gonna have a good time. It's a lot of laughs, it's a lot of smiles, it's a lot of wholesomeness, and it's a whole lot of heart, and it's great to watch. So do yourself the favor, and yeah, until next time, everyone, have a good one.